Welcome to this brief conversation that allows us to talk a little bit more about customer data analytics and the proxy data warehouse solution specifically. My name is Hannah Laufer. I am the MREL lead of the Savings at the Frontier program, and I am talking to Winnie Omondi, our data analytics consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya. Winnie is a financial data system specialist and currently obtaining a PhD degree from the University of Nairobi. She's worked in a number of inclusive finance projects and has worked for a large Kenyan bank in the ICT sector. So that means she comes with a lot of practical experience. It means that it makes her invaluable for our monitoring systems because she also understands the mindset and the inner workings of the data teams. We hope that you also watch our panel discussion on the business case, challenges and opportunities for data analytics, where we speak to our FSP partners in Tanzania, and we speak to Tanzania Commercial Bank and DMA, a fintech. A bit of context: the Savings at the Frontier program is a 6.5-year long partnership between the Mastercard Foundation, Oxford Policy Management, and 10 financial services providers. And the objective is to deliver relevant and affordable savings-led financial services to lower-income market segments in the context of the program that includes smallholders, urban traders, participants of the informal economy, and it means working with and through informal savings mechanisms, so savings groups, VSLAs, Roskers, Askers, and mechanisms such as SUSU, for example. It's important, I think, to say that Savings at the Frontier works with a lot of different types of financial services providers. So you'll find fintechs, aggregators, larger commercial banks, but also challenger banks. We work with an MFI, so the business models, the delivery models, the value propositions, the structures of the organizations, the culture, they're all quite different from partner to partner. It's also important for this session to understand that the Savings at the Frontier program is experimental and it follows an adaptive management approach. And I think that holds particularly true for the data analytics work that we are doing. I think the only thing that we were quite certain about in the beginning was not to outsource the monitoring system to a third-party provider, but to see whether we can work on getting the data and understanding the data, making sense of it with our partner FSPs. I think we learned quite quickly that the data could not inform decision-making the way that it was initially. It was difficult to get, it was difficult to find in some instances, to extract, to use, to understand, not only for us, but also for project teams sometimes. What we had in mind was basically to move away from a very compliance-driven data use, so just for us as a program as monitoring data, to a more proactive use of data where it could also offer value to our project teams in the FSPs, maybe in solving business challenges or maybe in supporting operational decision making. I think what we understood there was that if you deliver financial services to the frontier, data really matters because it's not business as usual. It's a new market segment. You need to understand where the frontier is. So you need to look at customer location and financial services access point locations. You need to maybe describe the size of the new opportunity, the new market segment. You need to understand how people are using the product, what use cases are emerging in the beginning. So for all of that, data is really important. And I think we have worked our way through quite a few different approaches and solutions, and we wanted to take the time now to talk about the proxy data warehouse, which is just one of them. If you want to read about it, Winnie has worked on another project, as I explained before, the DMAC project. The proxy data warehouse is mentioned in the DMAC toolkit, the publication that you can find on the FSDA website. Thank you for being here, Winnie, and we're excited that you will also show us the proxy data warehouse. In your experience, maybe as a consultant more broadly, what would you say are the most common challenges when working with commercial banks and regulated financial services providers on data analytics?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. Working with commercial banks, the challenges are many, but I could just highlight a few of them. For example, I'll talk about restricted access. Usually the technical teams are the gatekeepers of the data. And sometimes the non-technical teams would find it really difficult to get data when they require because of the other business as usual functions, which keep them so busy. So that delays the process and makes it a bit difficult for them to progress very quickly. The other issue is the high turnover of the technical staff in commercial institutions and several other institutions that make continuity becomes a problem. And then you find you have to start all over again. What we need to understand is that data should tell us a story. It's not just a question of numbers. The data should be clean, complete, consistent, reliable, and timely. Now, good analytics would therefore deliver knowledge and insight if our data was meeting all those qualities. So it's important for us to have a working relationship and continuity in terms of consistent resources to enable us to achieve this.
Yeah, we've learned that in the monitoring system. So because I think the panel session references the proxy data warehouse and it's quite a new thing, maybe you can just talk to us about the proxy data warehouse, what it's used for, maybe explain the basic functionalities and show everyone how it's set up.
Okay, thank you. The term proxy data warehouse is a term we came up with, but basically we were trying to define a simple filtered repository to enable FSPs create an offline analytical engine, which when combined with public data could provide meaningful and compatible analytics and visualizations and insights and provide better customer understanding, primarily in a single product context. The objective was to provide a learning environment. Since it is off the core system, it was easy to use it as a learning environment where people could make mistakes and redo the processes once again. The key advantage is that it was a safe, refreshable space to experiment and learn on how data creation and cleaning can take place. The target teams that we were having for the proxy data warehouse actually was the entire organization in their various levels. They could easily learn from it. The technical teams could easily have an offline place where they could try out visualizations and tools at their own comfort. Yes. So basically, to set up the proxy data warehouse, we would work with the FSPs in terms of determining the kind of data they create. We were primarily looking at customer data, group data, transaction data. Then SATF would provide the public domain data, which we normally would get from the financial index, the global financial index, the census for the country, and the USAID demographic health surveys, because these were more consistent data and they would span over a longer period of time. So once we came up with the basic templates which the FSPs could produce, then we developed the simple database and create a simple web application to enable them just upload their data, refresh their data, and view the data in its raw form. We provided also for background computations and sharing of the reporting as developed. I'll just take you through the web application as it. So on my screen, you'll see a web application page.
I can't see it yet.
Okay, let me share. I'm sharing my screen.
Yep, I can
see.
Yeah.
Okay, on my screen, there's a web application page. It's a very simple application which primarily handles the upload of the data that we share with the FSPs through Excel or CSV formats. Uh, the first three menu items, the upload screen, clearing and refreshing data, and static data, are the most important. The fourth, which is the background computation and the Power BI reporting, is a value add to the system. I'll just quickly go through the upload screen. And basically, we were looking at our three tables, internal tables from the FSP, which was the customer data, group data, and transaction data. Then the public data was provided by the SATF based on what data they were creating. So if I look at the first one, which is the customer data, there's a sample template for the kind of data that we would require for the upload. And if you open that, you'll see the template and the file format. This was just a guide to show the person doing the upload what kind of file is expected from them. So we'll then generally select the country, select the institute, select the year and the quarter. We segregated our data in this way so that it would enable us replace and load quarters as they came on. Then we'll choose the file from the location where it is and upload it. The next one would be the clearing and refresh. Supposing we loaded data that we had errors or had any issue and we wanted to replace it. We then simply come here, choose the year and the quarter we want to remove, and then using an internal password just to restrict any unnecessary clearing, we will do this so that one is able then to go back to the first initial screen and load the data that they want to use. So we were looking at it in terms of progressive periods of years and quarters. So it was very easy to play around with this. And where there was a mistake, one would quickly go and remove the data and then upload it once more. Then the most interesting part of the web application was the static data. We provided for the view of the data as it is. We selected a bank. This is just a demo bank, non-specific data, just data that we created, but we picked a country, Nigeria, and then we called the bank Commerce Bank, and we just prepared the data that was to be used for this testing. So what is interesting about this screen, initial screen, is once the user has selected the data they want to use, they are able even then to copy it or download it to Excel, CSV, PDF, and all that. They were also able to view the data in terms of the number of display per page, which made it very easy for them. If they wanted to see everything, then they would see everything, or just 10 records per page. It was at their comfort. They were able also to sort the data based on the parameters available to enable them view the data in a sequential hierarchy based on the various parameters that we have on the data. The good thing about this is we provided flexibility in terms of additional fields which were not necessarily on their data, but were derived from this data that they are provided. Like, for example, under the age, we have the date of birth, which is a field in the database, but then we have the age translated based on the current date. But we also provided for segregation of data by description, like the young adult, the youth, the elder, and all that. We also segregated by the age bracket, where we are saying the young adult is 25 to 34. So if the user wanted to work with young adults, then they would simply just pick the category they wanted to work with. And this would be done using this very form at the bottom, where then you specify what kind of adult you wanted to work with, and the data would be filtered to give you just what you want to see. If you wanted to work with just a certain age group, you would then filter at the bottom and just work with those. If you wanted to work with the depending on a specific customer number or any other parameter on the table, you are free to do so. Then you'd then be able to download the file using the various options that are available to us. This made it very easy for the non-technical user who ideally would go to the technical staff to generate this file for them. But here they were able to do it on their own. So this provided a learning environment which enabled, actually involvement in the organization in terms of the usage. So we also provided for the public data, which would give us some parameters from the different sources of data that we have. And if you could just look at what we have here, you could then see the rich data that we have in the public and how it would map onto our customer internal data. So we made it possible for the user to then be able to look at themselves in relation to the public out there. We can no longer isolate ourselves from the public. Internal data and public data must meet at some point. And this provided this platform to enable us to look at the literacy levels. If we capture them within our data, internal data, then we look at the literacy level within a certain region, within a certain prospect. Then you find it's easy to understand how are we doing in vis-a-vis the public. So this was another provision that we had. Then we also provided for the use of the Power BI, which is an analytical tool, but we wanted them to use the free demo version, which most people start off with before they see the need to get some low value paid up version, which may have more features. So we provided for a situation where we could host the report after generation, because on the free version, there's no sharing. So once there's a critical report that we wanted to share in an organization, then we would then host it at this point to enable them view it and discuss. Because the web application is platform independent, you can access it on your mobile phone or your computer, and therefore it made it easy for people to share. Again, it's concurrent access, so unlimited. So many people could access at the same time and discuss a central point. Yes.
Thank you, Winnie. That was interesting. I think just to repeat some of the things you said, because the audience might not be so familiar with all these different systems in a bank. I think the proxy data warehouse is a solution for larger, more traditional financial services providers, right? Maybe some that do not have full warehousing solutions yet or business intelligence units. So when we were working with the proxy data warehouses, obviously we did not work with the fintechs, but with institutions that have this very ring-fenced core banking system that product managers or the project team members could not access easily. And I think for us, it was important as Savings at the Frontier program, because it helped build this very project-specific space where, in our case, we work with the linked savings groups and the individual savers, where we could just, keep building the database and explore the data, which wasn't possible anywhere else because of this very restricted access to data. I think that was an interesting point that you made, and for us as a program, it's beneficial because it allows us not to have this process of the monitoring reports. But if we had set it up earlier, initially at the project start, then we could have learned alongside the FSP partner, rather than asking them for the reports and sort of extracting that. I think also just to say that this is an initial step, right? When you want to work on data analytics with the FSPs and with the people who are trying to innovate and develop a new product, then you need to create the space where where you can do so. And I think, Winnie, you've done that now with 2 of our FSP partners. You've created the space, you found the data that's in the right spots in the FSP, you linked the data, you created these proxy data warehouses with them. And at the moment, we're trying out how far we can push this. You're training them on Power BI. So you're working with them. Maybe you can share some insights from these concrete examples where we're working with the financial services providers and talk about maybe what were the difficult parts to get right in the beginning. What do you see they're interested in now that they have the data and they can start exploring it and learn about it?
Okay, I think I'm excited about the uptake. Initially, when we started, there were a few issues where you probably have a resource and you start the journey, and within no time they're gone.
Yeah.
When you get a new person, you start all over again. So we had to go through the documentations with them and tell them the need to really try and keep the processes in, clearly documented so that the continuity becomes easy. Then after we overcame that, we've been doing the trainings on the use of Power BI, and we are trying to really empower them to be able to do the various visualizations and improve the reporting in their organizations. We are seeing a good response because most of our FSPs now are permeating it across to other functional units apart from the operations, which is where it starts off, which is the core business of the institution. But you look at institutions which have HR, have planning, and all the other functional units who actually need to visualize their data as well. So what I see coming is that they'll look at it in terms of trying to make it an organizational process, not necessarily restricted to operations. The other thing is when they view their data, they are able to see where the gaps are and participate in the cleaning processes. The ownership improves when someone participates in the cleaning, because then they realize the next time a new customer walks into the institution, they're supposed to capture the data as much as possible and create more demographics, because that relates to the public domain data. So what I see are the next steps are we are going to improve on our creation of the data. We are going to be more careful in what we are doing, and we are going to learn more in terms of understanding the customer.
If you have any questions, I think Winnie, people can reach out to you. They can reach out to me via the Savings at the Frontier program. I will share the email addresses. Then thank you so much for your attention, and goodbye.